comes to the hadith, which is the topic now, earlier Muslims wanted to write down the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The earliest written attempt that we are aware of, most of them memorized the hadith. If you look at the big companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the major four scholars, they memorized the hadith. Like Musnad al-Imam Ahmad, it has about 30,000 hadith. They were all memorized by him, and their fiqh and their context and their history and everything. So the earliest attempt was Ibn Ishaq. And Ibn Ishaq was a good Muslim. He wanted to document what was he hearing. But his main task was to write whatever that he hears down. He did not filter what he is hearing. Is it correct? Is it not correct? Am I hearing it from an enemy of Islam or a good Muslim? Am I hearing it from a scholar or an average person who doesn't know what he's talking about, or he doesn't have a good memory and he mixed things and his memory is mixed? So he wrote everything. It's like I ask you, you know what? Document your life in America for me. So instead of going to the Library of Congress or going to the most reputable newspapers like the New York Times and the Washington Post, you go to the newsstand and get all the tabloids. You know, the cheap tabloids that tells you know what, there was an alien walking down the street and there was a werewolf seen in the subway and all these crazy stories. So he put them all together. Even himself, when he was describing his effort, he said, Allahu a'alamu bi'ayyihima asah. What I hear, I write. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows which story is correct and which hadith is fabricated. Some people benefit from him, like, and now this is the number one source of the Sirah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sirah Ibn Hisham, and Ibn Hisham quotes what he has from him. But what Ibn Hisham quotes from him are the things that the other scholars now that came in and founded ilm al-hadith. Give an example. Imam al-Bukhari, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, rahimahullah, memorized the biographies of 2,000 people. 2,000 people. Where they were born, at what day, at what time, which town they were, what they were doing, and at the town they were in, which people were around them, whom they befriended and whom they did not know, whom they were aware of and whom they're not. So, when someone comes to him and tell him, this person said that this person said this and that, he can filter and tell you, no, this person never met that person in his entire life. This person died before this person was born. And so on and so forth. And use that rigorous test to only bring the quotations of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that we're absolutely sure that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said. Every narrator is of utmost credibility. They never known to lie. Even one of his criteria, if a companion, you know what, sometimes they talk to their horses and sometimes the horses understand what they're talking about. So if a companion is pulling a horse or a camel uphill and say, you know what, just go up, I'll give you more food and we'll give you more hay at the end when you reach the top, and he did not give that horse hay, then that person is a liar. He would not take his hadith. The entire hadith that he's a part of, he would drop him completely out. So the most reputable, most credible people that it's absolutely proven that they met each other and they heard the hadith from each other and said it, and these are the hadith that he collected in what is known as Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari was over 6,000 hadith, but some of them were redundant. What does that mean? Prophet Muhammad would say something to a group of companions, and then he would say the same hadith, and sometimes in a different love, different text, but with the same meaning, to a different group of other companions. So this group of companions would narrate it, and the others would narrate it, so you have the same hadith narrated by two different chains of narrations. So if you take him out, you have about 4,300 hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. The students, one of the students of Imam al-Bukhari is none other than Imam Muslim. And Imam Ahmad and his hadith, and he was, subhanAllah, one of the most knowledgeable people about fiqh al-hadith. For example, Imam Ahmad, his teacher was Imam al-Shafi'i. But Imam al-Shafi'i was his teacher in usul al-fiqh. How to establish an opinion, how to research an opinion with the scientific rules, and all the definitions of how we can understand our fiqh and jurisprudence about anything. But Imam Ahmad كان أكثر منه حديثا. He was more knowledgeable about the hadith and the science of hadith. Imam Ahmad was one of the contemporaries of Imam al-Bukhari, and they used to study with each other. So with these rigorous tests, the correct hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ were kept today. And then you have the other scholars that came after them. You have Musnad Imam Ahmad, you have Sahih Muslim, you have Sunan Ibn Majah, Al-Nasa'i, Al-Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood. All these are the 6 major scholars of hadith. And then later on, because it's an evolving hadith, new scholars came in, even most recently, and the most recent one, Shaykh Nasruddin al-Albani, rahimahullah, he went and used knowledge, because some of the biggest problems that the scholars of hadith had is that they had a limited amount of people that they can tap into their knowledge of hadith. For example, Imam Ahmad used to travel from Mecca to Yemen and actually work hard labor. He used to carry weights, he used to sew suits, he used to write contracts and agreements between people just to finance his trip to Yemen, so he can get into a town where there's another scholar of hadith that he can learn some hadith from. Really hard labor. So if you did not happen to meet one of the scholars who listened to the hadith, or one of the tabi'een or their followers that listened and learned one hadith, then you missed that hadith. Later on, the scholars, when now they have all the work of the 6 major scholars compared and verified, and now we have a silsila sahihah and so on and so forth. So without doubt, we know exactly that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ within that context had said what he said. No other religion in the world, not even close to this. And this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Are we having another prophet? Are we getting more guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is there anyone who's going to come with another revelation to tell us, you know what, this is wrong, here is a new word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu akhirul mursaleen. There's no other guidance. He completed the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today I perfected and completed your religion and my favor, the blessing of Islam upon me, the religion is perfect and complete. And for that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made sure that every hadith of Prophet Muhammad that matters to us is documented. His biography is documented without any doubt. There's no changes in the Quran whatsoever, and we have the guidance in our hands. Wallahi, you do not know how big of a blessing that is. I watched a documentary myself. People in South Korea worshipping, one of this Eastern, weird philosophies. And subhanAllah, we're created to worship our Creator, to seek His forgiveness. You want to be good. That is in our nature. So they seek forgiveness in their religion. Wallahi, I seen it with my own eyes. They had these thick rubber or tire rubber tied to their elbows and their knees, and they have to crawl, not walk, not on a wheelchair, crawl, lying down, their face down, for 15 miles to a certain temple, so they can have some hope in the forgiveness of whatever God or gods that they worship. So when we say this is a correct hadith, then subhanAllah, there's no more accuracy in the history of mankind that can be more applied than this hadith was actually said by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.